Here I've got the Behringer RD-6, which is a clone, a remake, or whatever you want to call it, of the Roland Dramatics TR-606, which I've also got in front of me, and I thought just quickly throw them together and see if they sound anything alike. As far as features go and as far as using them, they are extremely similar, or if not identical, to be honest, except there's a couple of additions on the RD-6. Obviously, we've got USB, we've got MIDI, which we don't have on the Dramatics. You have to get a MIDI retrofit. It does have sync, but it's 5-pin DIN sync, so it doesn't sync easy with other stuff. You'd have to buy a lead that will cost you a whole £8 or something. But, you know, just not quite as easy to sync up with everything as the RD-6 is, obviously. Package-wise, as it were, they're both flimsy plastic things, except the Dramatics does feel a little bit more solid or weighty, but that's probably because the components inside are bigger than they are in the RD-6, I'd imagine. But both very similar. You can see the RD-6 is just slightly larger than the 606. 606 take batteries, the RD-6 doesn't take batteries. We've got separate outs on the Behringer. This has got separate outs, but they're aftermarket, so I think most have them, or most that you can find. RD-6 is just over £100 thereabouts. The Dramatics is about £400 to £500. Generally, in this condition, you're looking at £500. So, you know, let's have a listen and see how they get on. Obviously, I've had a little play with these before making this video, and the one thing I'd say is everything sounds the same except for the hi-hats and the cymbals, and on the Behringer you've also got a clap that you don't have on the 606. So I'll go through each of the sounds independently. And I've put an accent on one of the beats so you can hear there's a slight difference. And if you listen carefully, you can hear a bleed through there. You can hear everything else still playing. Obviously, you don't get that if you send it through the individual outputs. Well, I think you don't, but I've not really tried. But in a mix, you wouldn't hear it anyway, would you? I thought I could hear a ping there, but it's just the spring in the button. So to me, they sound extremely similar, if not identical to all intents and purposes. Move over to the snare. Very minor differences there, the sort of differences you might get in two 606s. Maybe a little bit more of a ring on the 606. It sounds a little bit lower on the RD-6, although when I was playing them earlier, I thought the 606 sounded a little bit pitched a little bit lower, so. Definitely a bit more bright, isn't it, on the 606. I'm really picking hard to explain what the differences are. Is it got more body and a bit more top on the 606? Or more thud on the RD-6? So, you know, in a mix, you wouldn't know the difference, would you? Let's go to the toms then. There's a little bit more release on the 606. If you listen really carefully, you can hear that sort of noisy release just continuing on. And I've not noticed that until I've literally sat here and really listened to it. When I listened to them all earlier, I was like, yeah, pretty identical. Yeah, much more gated on the RD-6. But putting those three together, Yeah, you can really hear the RD-6 is sounding a bit brighter on that snare, although I thought it sounded a bit duller earlier. Maybe it's the two sounds together interacting. Let's move over then to the hi-hats. The 606 has got much of a grainier feel, bitty, almost like 8-bit. And I think the analog in this, I can't find anything that says there's samples like they are in the 909. Much cleaner on the RD-6. Yeah, there's a lot of almost phasiness in there, isn't there? And I've got accents on these as well, if I just show you that quickly. Same on this one. Let's listen to just the open hat. Again, the RD-6 is pitched a bit higher. Now let's put them both on together, because if you put them both on together, you get another hi-hat sound. And you do get that on the RD-6. You're not getting a mix of the open hat and the closed hat, you're getting a completely different sound. It sounds almost like an accented closed. With a bit more ring to it. Let's try that on the TR-606. Similar sort of thing, but not the same. Much lower, much more body on the 606. So as I said, the biggest difference I found on these was with the hi-hats and the cymbals. So over to the cymbals. Again, it's pitched a bit lower on the 606, and I've got to say, I wonder if I had a few 606s, if they'd all sound the same, because it's not exactly difficult to pitch a sound down, is it? So I wonder if Behringer did what they did with the RD-9 and got a selection of 909s and sort of made a sound that had the character of the 909, but didn't sound identical to anyone's in particular. Okay, another little trick it's got up its sleeve. The 606 has, I've not tried it on the RD-6 yet, but if you sync it up, you can change the timing of the open hat by using the tempo. The tempo won't change because it's synced, but it changes the timing of the open hat. Let's try that. Let's go into the open hat. It's only subtle, but it is there. So overall, the kick, the snare and the toms, I think, are close enough. You would never notice any difference in a mix. The hi-hats and the cymbals do sound different, but I've not played the 606 for a while. I got it out of box after playing with this because, again, you know, we'll just sell this. It's been sitting in a box doing nothing. I can get maybe £500 for it, so I'm £400 better off. Are those differences really worth me keeping the 606? Probably not, to be honest, because I didn't notice them until I put them together. It sounded close enough. And when I use the 606, I normally stick it through a distortion or something. You saw in that intro track there, I was using this Valco KGB fuzz, and this is sort of really mental little guitar fuzz box, but it can do all sorts of weird things. It just pulls out transients and gets those really glitchy effects. So do like using that. So in the intro track, I was putting the RD-6 through it, and the distortion on this as well, which is a bit of fun. So yeah, there are differences. Are they important to you? I'm still in two minds whether to just sell the 606, and to be honest, the only reason for me not to sell it is because if I hang on to it for a couple more years, I might get a couple more £100 actually, because you know, that's how things go at the minute. So yeah, pretty good. So I hope that was of some use to somebody somewhere, and if it was, please think about subscribing and join me over on my Patreon page. And I think I'll throw up a few 606 samples onto my Patreon page. I'll stick them through maybe a bit of the KGB fuzz and through my Culture Vulture as well, to get a little bit of extra warmth in there. So if you're a patron, you'll get access to them as well. So I hope that was useful, and I will see you next time.